Welcome to Living from the Inside Out with Holly Wade. Living from the Inside Out is about living fully, guided from your inside. Holly shares the wisdom of how your mind, body, and spirit are truly connected and that you deep down know your own answers. Holly and her guests will provide tips, practices, and inspirational stories to help you approach your life from your own heart. And here's Holly.
Everyone, this is Holly from Living from the Inside Out. Thanks for joining this week's podcast. The older I get, the more I'm convinced that adult life is really about unlearning. And if you really want true transformation from where you are right now, you have to look back to understand your habits and what was hardwired in you, which, by the way, happened before age 7. So all of the programming that you've got, all of those beliefs, all of those values, all of your ideas on life and how it, quote, should be, were shaped and informed before you were 7 years old. And I'm convinced that we spend our adult life questioning those things and either choosing to continue down that path or choosing to do different. And that's the process of unlearning. My boyfriend and I were taking a road trip this weekend to go watch a football game. And we were talking, and one of the things that came up in our conversation was, how we wish we had the wisdom that we have now, the wisdom of life experience, and could go back and give our 20-year-old or 20-something selves advice, and how much that would have reshaped our lives. And I think a lot of people, once you hit 40, 50, I think a lot of people can relate to that there are things you would definitely do differently if you could go back. And that's also part of the gift of life, right? We always have the free will. We always have the opportunity. We always have the option to let go of what we know to be true and release it, or what we think we know to be true and release it to be reinformed. That's the dying of the old self. So how do you go through unlearning? It isn't easy. I'm not going to say that it is. But think about things, the habits that you've created around how you eat, as an example. If you grew up with a lot of desserts or sugar or snacks, the go-to processed stuff in your home as a kid, you've probably continued some of that. And then you start to realize, ooh, I don't feel so good when I eat those things. And so you choose differently. And going down that path of changing your eating patterns is not easy, because you've also trained your whole family. And so now either they all have to adapt or you have to be the lone wolf, right? So it's kind of a sell of getting everybody on board if you want to make those changes and have that support in your home, or else you've got to have some strong will. Or maybe it's about, you could escape, you could cheat for so long because your body didn't give you the feedback. And then all of a sudden it's like, hey, you can't do this anymore, because when you eat that, whatever it is, going straight to whatever body part, the hips, the gut, the whatever. Or, hey, you can no longer do the cardio and the weightlifting that you used to do because I'm breaking down instead of building up now. So our bodies are telling us, like, hey, got to do something different. Or it might even be an example of how you look at relationships. A lot of that was informed by the time you were 7. For me, it was, I'm not getting married. Not until I am ready. I'm going to go enjoy my life. And that was a shaped and informed choice from watching my parents and being like, I don't want that. If that's what marriage is, I don't want it. So I chose different. And it was still a fear-based example. So how do we rewire? How do we change? Well, when we're little, we're just taking in information. Facial expressions, the things that our parents tell us, we take that direction, or other people, teachers, peers, we take that information. And that is how we develop our viewpoint of ourselves by the time we're 7. And if you want to change how you think, you have to make that a daily action, a daily choice, a daily habit. So as an example, if you want to choose self-love, you have to date yourself every single day. Every single day, treat yourself the way you want someone else to treat you. And start to change how you think about yourself. And you have to take time to be with yourself and to ask those hard questions. Like, if you believe things like, I'm not good enough, then you have to explore, where did that messaging come from? What shaped that information? And it's not about getting stuck in the past. It's about using the past as your place of reference so that you can understand where that came from. And then asking yourself, well, is it true? Because when I look at the things I've been successful at in my life, that shows me that I am good enough. And if I'm good enough for this, then maybe I'm good enough to try that. And if I fail, it's okay, because eventually I'll get it figured out. See, that is how we reprogram. We start to tell ourselves the truth. Because there are actually very few truths. We accept a lot of things as truth, but it's not. It isn't truth. It's misinformation. And when we start to realize that it's misinformation and that we have the opportunity to change that, you start driving your life differently. But you have to do the internal work first. You have to. You have to understand, like, you have to pay attention to those thoughts of when you say, I can't, I should, I would, I could, I can't, I won't, not. You have to pay attention to the language in the thoughts that rise up. And then start to catch them and say, oh, no, you don't. I'm doing the opposite. This process can be called the dark night of the soul. And we go through it time and time and time and time again in our life. That's encouraging, isn't it? It's continual dying of the old self. And it's that when we get to those places where we're uncomfortable, finding a new way to grow through it is the answer. And that's how we find ourselves on the other side. Stress is the information. Tension is the information. Discomfort is the information. That's where you need to lean in order to find transformation in your life. Because when we're comfortable, we're not going to change. I talked about this last week. One thing that I do is I create a vision board so that every day I am looking at what it is I want in my life, what it is that I desire to create, what I desire. And if you've never asked yourself what you really desire, what you really want for your life, that's one of those tough questions, because we're not given permission to do that. And it doesn't matter how crazy it is. I want to own my own island. Go for it. If you don't go for that, you're never going to know how far you can get in this life. For me, I've set a dollar mark. I've set an amount of money that I am aiming to make in this next year. And it's really aggressive. And it means I have to get really, really uncomfortable in asking people to hire me. That is not my normal, natural state. But if I want to get better, if I want to actually help people, I know that's what I have to get uncomfortable and show up every single day doing what isn't easy and what isn't natural for me. And that's where growth happens. That's where confidence comes about. That's where groove in your life, meaning you're living your life by your terms and your rules, comes into play. And that's when we get to be the co-creator of our lives in this true dance between what we've been called to do from the day we were born and directing our lives from that space within us. And that is what it means to be a lifetime warrior. It's uncommon. If you could use some help with that unlearning and reprogramming, because I guarantee I didn't do it on my own. It was about a 20-year process of changing my health, then changing my attitude about my body, and then changing my relationship with myself. And it was just this process of that's how it worked for me. And if you would like someone to walk with you through that process, I would be honored to do so. Contact me on Facebook, through email, holly@hollywadewellness.com, or go to my website, hollywadewellness.com, and sign up for your 30-minute session so that we can see if we'd be a good fit. In order to do different, you have to practice. And it's 90 days straight, at least. That's 1/4 of the year. That is at least 90 days straight before that reprogramming takes place, before that muscle is flexed and easy to do. Like, think about the first time you hit the weight room. It wasn't easy. But over time, that repetition got easier, right? Life is no different. In order to transform, in order to do different, in order to create a different outcome than where you're headed right now, you have to unlearn and relearn. So what is the one thing that if you focused on it, on changing your health, changing your diet, changing your exercise, changing how you handle stress, changing your career, changing a relationship, changing your finances. If you flexed that muscle for the next 90 days, which one thing would it be? I'm here to help you. Thanks for joining this week's episode of Living from the Inside Out. This is Holly with Holly Wade Wellness. And when we learn who we are from the inside, when we start to take care of ourselves from the inside and live from that place first, rather than the noise from the outer world, game changer, game on. And that's what the show's all about. Have a great week. Thanks for joining this week's episode of Living from the Inside Out.
Thank you for joining us at Living from the Inside Out. Listen every Tuesday at 6 p.m. Eastern. To connect with Holly, just go to www.globalvoiceradio.com. Global Voice Radio is where your voice and your message is heard.